rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So before anyone freaks out, I want to let you know I am not stripping the paint off this machine. I am just restoring this machine. This is a 1937 Singer 15 with the Royal Air Force decals. And I'm not stripping her because her paint is in great shape. Her decals are in great shape. She's just a mess. Her wiring is a disaster. She needs a big overhaul, but I think that with a good clean and polish, we can, bring her back to her original glory. And in my part of the U.S., at least, they are not as common to find these Royal Air Force decals. Just moved my little cooler vents, so hopefully I don't have as much wind on my camera. But I was saying these Royal Air Force machines are not very common here, so she is going to be up for sale once I am all done, so if anyone is interested in a little bit of that kind of historical stuff, let me know. I just love the little, lightning bolt radio symbol, whatever, and the little flight. So I'm going to get started getting her taken apart. She doesn't even have a regular foot on. She's got a zipper foot on or a edging foot or something on there, so she will end up with a regular foot. But let me get some gloves in my box and we'll start taking her apart. Okay, one of the first things I'm going to do is try to get all of this motor stuff off. Hang on, I need to move this out of my way here. Okay. So if I can loosen this up enough that I can... There it goes. All right, so this, obviously, I'm not going to be reusing that belt. I just need to keep unscrewing this. Oopsie. Okay. So here is the motor. Just a little screw holding it in. All the wiring is just completely shot, so I'm actually going to go ahead and cut that at this point. That's not savable. Okay, so here is the motor, and I am going to do what I can to make this motor perfect again. It's a BR7 motor, and wait. Let me unscrew this back plate and remove that because I need to get to where this light screw is down here. I think that this light is going to give me a few issues, so rather than taking this stuff apart right here right now, I am going to get my screwdriver in here at an awkward angle to take the bracket off and just take the thing off in its entirety. Almost. It's so awkward. Okay, so I got it off. I want to point out there is a little red washer on this side. Okay, and this is the switch. Very old school. I love that. I am going to go ahead, twist. I started to undo this. I'm going to twist this little screw back in and get that other tiny screw, put it right back in here, and put the whole thing in its own little quart-sized bag so I can deal with it later, just on its own. Okay, now that that is cleared away, at this point I can't tell if there's supposed to be a decal back here or not. It's very dirty, and you know, this is very dirty, so I'll be getting that cleaned. And go ahead and take the belt guard off. Okay. And this is what it's looking like. So there's a little spring here. There's two holes. This big one is what the screw goes through. The smaller one is for oil. Okay, so make sure I don't lose this spring here. But underneath the spring there is, it looks like a wick, an oil wick in there. So that's going to need to get replaced. This whole thing is really not wanting to turn very easily, so we've got lots of stuff to do there. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and take the wheel off. Get you up higher. Okay, let's take this wheel off. You can see how dirty it is going to be, but very cleanable. Okay, the typical washer. Will it come off? Yes, comes off very well. Excellent, excellent. Well, it has been quite a while since I've done a 15, so I'm glad I opened her up. I found her in the back of an antique store. We've got a lot of pivot points going on here, and so I'm going to get started by grabbing my 9/16 inch wrench. And I'm going to just try to loosen them all up at once, and then I'll flip her down and we can deal with them separately. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, okay? So tight, loose, make sure that my little ratchet is going the right way, and there we go. So just backing everything out a smidge, if you can see. I'm going to do the same thing to these other two bolts. Alright, I've got her tipped over. I think I'm going to go ahead and try to pull some of this stuff off up here where the hook is before I get too involved. You know, what I'm actually going to do is pull off this plate so I can reach through easier. Need a different screw. It's been so long since I've done one of these. I honestly should go back and take a peek. Hang on, I just dropped the tiny screw in there. Grab it out. Okay, see that tiny little screw? I need to hang on to that. And this, because I don't want to break them off as I'm trying to pull off the plate. Okay, here's the very dirty plate. We're going to get that cleaned up. And I'm going to pop out the bobbin case, which is also really dirty and needs to get cleaned. And if I can get this needle up, just because I don't want it to stab me, I'm going to pull that needle out real quick. Okay. Actually feeling a little schizophrenic because I don't want to deal with that bottom yet. I want to get all of this stuff out of the nose done first. So let me try to take this face plate off. Get it loosened. I think I'm going to have to unscrew the entire thing. Okay. She's very stuck. This whole tension, I'll pull that out of it and get that cleaned up later. For right now, I'm just going to leave this complete and put it in its own little bag. I don't know if you can see, it's really rusty in here. So, you know, we'll do the best we can. It's about all you can do sometimes. Okay, I need to just get stuff taken off. First of all, let me get this presser foot off and remove it. And also, I'm going to knock off the thread cutter. 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐞. Okay. I'm going to deal with the presser bar here. It is kind of gross, so I am very carefully unscrewing this so I don't mar up the little ridges. You know what? I'm going to spray this whole cavity here with some penetrating oil real quick. Okay, this time I grabbed my Schaefer can, you know. Not really a particular rhyme or reason to my madness. I just want to get it off. Okay. Almost. Lots of threads. And there's my finial, and it does have a wick on the top here. It feels soft. I might be able to reuse that, we'll see. Let me put that in there. Let's see here. Okay, there is a washer on top. I'll put that over, pushing the little spring out. Okay, now I need to open up this little screw here. Just a little set screw. And that should loosen this up. Will it, is the question. Kind of, sort of. Just kind of spinning it around in that whole little soupy mess of penetrating oil. Come on. There it goes. Alright, that is up, and here's that little block. Okay, they both need a lot of help. Okay, so for the needle bar, I'm just going to pull this needle clamp off. And this little thread guide needs to come off, but I can reach the screw better if I tip her this way. Okay, there is a little screw right there that I'm going to be removing. Okay, so while I have her up on her nose, I'm turning what was her hand wheel until I see a little screw through there, which is the back of the needle bar clamp. And I know you can't see it, but I can see that little flathead screw, so I can stick my screwdriver in here, work with gravity, and untwist it. Maybe if I go this way you can see. I don't even know. So I got the screw out. This is what it looks like. Okay, that was screwed into the back of this piece. So now I should be able to push this needle bar out. Oh, what is up there? There is another oil wick up here. Let me see if I remove that, if I can push the needle bar out the top. Okay, that's what the oil wick looks like. And yeah, I can push it out. Alright, so once that was removed, this comes out. I'm going to keep this oil wick with the needle bar parts just so I have something to compare to when I cut out a new one. Now that that is out, this whole piece comes off nicely. This should come out here too. Okay, and that's going to pop back on there when I am ready. And I'm going to take off this thread take-up lever over here. So let me flip her down. See this great big screw right there? So that is what I need to get to. And that is came loose surprisingly well, so that is good. There, so that's the big screw. And here is that thread take-up lever. Okay, this bearing is attached. It's not coming off, and there's a groove in the cog behind here that this little bearing is going to travel in. So I need to get that not lost, but all cleaned. And looking straight down here for the lifter lever, to me it looks like if I remove this screw, I might be able to just pull out that pin. That's my hope. So I'm pulling out the set screw. Okay. And I feel like I'm going to need to tap this out from behind. Some tapping, and it's not budging. And since, you know, I don't want to destroy this paint, this is moving. I'm just going to clean it in place, you know, do no harm. So I'm going to put this little set screw back in and move down to the bottom area. All right, I'm going to take this plate off. I got the first little plate screw off. I'm going to try to get this other one off. I need something that can give me a little more oomph. You know what? It's always tricky getting into that little back area. All right. If you don't have, this is the little Chapman bit. Okay, there's that second screw, and let's lift the plate. And just for fun, let's see what's lurking below. Not too many mouse sweaters, just dirt. Very dirty, very greasy, you know. But yeah, like I said, all that's going to get cleaned up anyway. I actually got my nerve up and came back, and I do have this punched out. So set screw there. This is the very large pin that's going to go through. Very dirty, so I'm going to get all that cleaned up too. I'm going to go ahead and try to remove the feed dogs while I have it upright here. Don't know. Nope, that's not going to work. Let me clean out these little screw slots here first and get a different, yeah, that should be good, different little bit. But again, just the bit on the little ratchet. See if that's going to work. Hopefully. There we go. It did break free. Okay, so I have two screws I need to unscrew just like this, and then hopefully I can pull the feet. I got those screws off, which is a pain, I gotta tell you, trying to get in there at a weird angle. But that's the feed dogs. Okay, all right, I'm gonna be flipping her over. All right, so underneath here, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the cover here over the hook. Okay, so there is one screw. Another screw. Okay, so there we go. This will also come off so I can clean in there. This is surprisingly, it is rotating, but not well, but it's really filthy, so that's going to get a complete clean. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take off this shaft over here next. This is the back side of the machine, that's the front side. So pivot points, removing this. There is a little screw and nut here I'm going to need to remove, so if I was smart I would do that before I finish taking this pivot point out, but obviously I'm not smart. So I'm going to do it right now. This looks like 3/8, and it is 3/8. I may need to flip this over because I need to be able to get a screwdriver in from this side. Trying at this angle, holding the back with my... Okay, let's try a bigger bit and my ratchet. See how we can do this. Okay, back again with this hand holding the nut and this hand coming in for the flat screw part. And it looks like my bit is slightly too big. Grab the wrong one. Okay, let's try it again. Holy smokes. You know what? There is no penetrating oil down here. So give me a minute. We're going to soak all of this stuff down here. Some of it obviously doesn't need soaking, but it's getting it anyway. I'm going to let that sit for just a bit, and then I'll come back and finish off getting this little nut and bolt off. It is loose now. Dropped my little nut right there. And this should pop out. Okay, so that is there. And if I back out over here, backing out this pivot point here. Okie dokie. I'm going to pull it out all the way because it's getting clean. It's like its brethren. I completely forgot. I cannot get this out until after I get this out. It's one of these weird sewing machine yoga kind of party tricks. So I need to get this shaft out of here first. Let me see. Backing out this pivot point. Put it in a different dish. Okay, and I'm just going to try. I think they're all the same size. I believe they are all 9/16 inch nuts, I believe. Can't see what I'm doing. I'm going over here and pulling this one out. There is a nut right here that I will need to remove to disconnect it from the vertical shaft there. Alright, got my pivot points out. So now this piece is free. So I'm going to put it with its associated points in a baggie. I think at this point it's free enough that I can clean up around all of this stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to let that be. Since I'm not stripping and everything, I think we're going to be okay. The main thing is I wanted to have all of these openings open so I can clean everything out, but that's all right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take off this. You know what? Am I though? I might just leave this here also, and as I get to this point to clean, very carefully remove it, clean around it, and then put it back on. Because if I'm not taking this off, I don't want to loosen up what this is connected to inside of here. And I don't know if you can see through that hole. It's kind of a pain to get to without taking this shaft off, and I don't want to take that shaft off. So this is not a complete tear down, but it's tearing it down enough that I can get to and clean up the machine. So, with that being said, this might be it for how far I tear her down. In order to get this out, I need to pound on some pins, and I don't want to do that. I am not fond of that activity. So, yeah, I'm just going to get started cleaning. So let me clean up my table here, and I'll show you my plan of attack. Alright, I am using 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞 hand cleaner to clean this off, and I realize that that will make some people lose their mind, but if you find something that works for you, please use it. But if you want to know what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. And I just took a scoop of it out in my hand and rubbed it on. And it liquefies on here, and I'm just using my hand to smear it around. And this was all completely blackened over just a few moments ago. So with that, hang on. I am grabbing just a shop towel, and I'm going to wipe it off. And just that simple little bit is going to really kick off the cleaning process here, okay? Don't know if you can see how much brighter everything is, but it does a good job. So again, if you don't like the idea of using it and it gives you nightmares, please don't. But for me and my shop, we like it. Okay, so that is the back side. Let me flip it over here and see what we can do on this front. Again, I just get a little scoop of it, smear her on. This decal is a little bit darker, so I'm going to put some on there because that means that there's yuck on it. Up here at the top, I'm going to smear it on down here underneath. Okay, and this is just to get all of the really, really yucky stuff off. It's not her final polish or anything like that, but it's a good place to start. Okay, and I will be cleaning this some more when I get to that point. Again, this is just making it so it's clean enough that I'm not going to get filthy, and I can start to reassemble things and feel good about it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to also clean the inside of the nose here. Just get a little bit again, and a brush, just one of these little acid brush things. Spread it all over the place in there. I've got some drops down below. And I'm also going to spread some around down here, because I'm not taking this off. I want to get that as clean as I can. Okay, and this is just removing the yuck. So then I can come back and clean it up. And for the smaller parts, I've got little pointy Q-tips, things that I can get into the smaller parts and clean, you know. But most of it I'll be able to just push my towel into. And I don't necessarily rinse this off with water. I just kind of wipe it and call it good. So after I'm done in here, then I'm going to flip her over and do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, the front and the outside are pretty clean, so she does move stiffly. So I just sprayed a whole bunch of penetrating oil deep into her, and I'm going to try to spin her for a while. Hold on to this bottom area. I need to get this little piece out of the way. Hang on, I've got too many things loose down here. But basically I've got a drill up here, some tape, and I'm just going to spin her while I hold these things down here with my other hand. So I need to turn off the camera for a minute and spin her until everything loosens up there in all of these bushings at the main shaft. Hello everybody, welcome back to the next day. So I have to apologize because I ended up just turning off the camera and reassembling everything in the bottom, it was just too hot, and I was frustrated because I didn't want to have my cooler blowing on the camera, and I don't know if you can hear the wind noise or not right now. I won't know till editing time. But I just had to get some stuff done, so turned off the camera. I've just got her sitting in a little box to hold her steady right now, because these machines, they don't have a way that they can stand while you're working on them. You know, it is what it is, but they're all wonky. So having her in a little box, this is one of my older boxes, just to keep her steady while I'm working is a great thing. So I will quickly turn her over and show you everything I did last night, and then we'll carry on and start putting her nose together. So at this point, this is all cleaned and reassembled, and I believe adjusted correctly. I have not adjusted her hook and everything. Well, her hook should be where it is because I didn't remove this shaft, okay? But I don't have it timed up with the needle height and everything. That will come later. But everything is cleaned out the best I can and moving very freely, you know. As far as presser foot adjustments, this bar here goes back and forth, and that adjusts the back and forth of the feed dogs in that little slot so you can get them centered. And over here, this little screw with its nut to hold it in place is what you turn to get the feed dogs centered front to back. Okay, so I believe I have that correct from last night, so that's good. So yeah, she's spinning really nice. Let me go ahead and flip her up so that we can start looking at her nose. So this is what she's looking like right now. Cleaned it up again as much as I could, but I haven't cleaned her parts yet, and I've got them over here. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and clean them, and they're really greasy. So what I'm doing a couple things. First, I am using my funky little home version ultrasonic, and I go half and half purple power and water. Okay, sounds a little extreme, but it is what it is. It's a really good solid degreaser and gunk remover. Run it in there for several minutes and then pull it out, and I can buff it. So that's what I'm going to be doing to get all of these parts cleaned up. I do have my little harder wheel over here to get grits and stuff off, my polishing wheel over here, that plus, you know, Dremels and things. So that's all of my tools. Let me go ahead and get her parts cleaned up, and then we'll get started putting her back together. Okay, I'm going to get started up here at the top and get thread take-up lever put back in the side of this cog. I don't know if you can see, there's a groove right in here, and that is the groove that this little bearing is going to travel in. So thankfully this goes in pretty easy on a 15. With that stuck into the groove, I can come this way, and there's a big old flathead screw that's going to go right back in here. So while I'm screwing it in, I'm turning what will be the wheel to make sure that it's moving easily. If it's bound up, you know, you need to make some adjustment here, but that looks pretty good. While I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and put the little presser lifter lever back on. And if you remember, there was a little set screw, and I'm just going to barely get that started on here so I don't lose it. It's going to go right there. And this you had to tap out from the back, and where this set screw is aiming at, if you're going to put the flat part of this little pin, okay, so that's going to be up. And oops, sorry, I have that going the wrong way. I just slid it into my bolt, or my lever here, okay, and I'm looking at where that flat part is, and I'm just going to slide it in while I'm looking at the right spot. My little nylon side here to tap it in. Okay, and then I can come back and screw that in so that it will cinch everything up. I need to get a smaller bit on here. Looks like I have some oil coming out. That's fine, I can wipe that off. Okay. I think that is fine. Seems to be moving easily. I don't think it's going to come out. I have this cinched in all the way. So let me move on to the needle bar area. Find a different way to prop my machine up so you can see. Okay. Let's see here. This is our needle bar. I'm just gonna get it started. Actually, I'm gonna put some oil in here because that feels like it needs to be cleaned. So give me a second to clean out this whole little area in here. Alright, so I've just got it started up here. Popping this little piece back on, and just stick a little bit of oil around there. Okay, popping this on, and then this is the little part. It's a clamp. There's a screw that's going to go in the back side here. It's going to look like this. Okay, that goes through here. And while it is down all the way, I'm going to go ahead and push my needle bar down some more, just so it's going to kind of hold all of this together. And this screw needs to come up from the back. And I'm just going to get it started in the threads here. I'm not going to actually cinch it up yet. Okay, now if you can see right here, there is a slight little dimple scuff mark, okay? Maybe in the light you can kind of see that. That is where this screw from the back used to be cinched up. So I'm going to try to match that up. Okay, so now that's what we have. I'm not sure if that's the exact height I need, but I will find out soon. I want to show you the way that I pull all of my nasty parts out of my cleaner, in case you've never seen. Now, it's going to look filthy over there because I reuse my liquid until it's too drastic. So let me get you over here. So there it is. I have presser bar stuff in there. My bar is actually too big to fit in my little thing, so I just clean it standard way. So can't really see where everything is. I do it by one little component at a time and kind of take a mental inventory of what I have, especially if there's small screws, so that as I'm pulling them out, I can know when I need to fish around a little bit more. But it does a pretty good job of getting all that yuck off. And again, I will be switching out to a standard foot. And there's one little screw. I think I have another one. There's my little washer. And when I can't feel anything anymore, and I think there might be something, you know, there's nothing wrong with sticking a gloved hand in there. It gets a little warm, but it's fine. So with my parts here, this is just my little bird's eye view of my cleaning process. I don't want these parts to sit here wet very long, so I want to kind of jump on it as soon as I pull them out, get them dry, and then like this, yeah, it's clean, but it's not shiny. So then, in general, I come over here to this little guy, turn it on. I don't know if I'm in the picture or not, but I can run it on my little buffer wheel. And if you can see, this little part here that I ran through that wheel is already really, really shiny, and this isn't. So I clean everything up. Oh my gosh, I can tell you're getting wind, so sorry about that. that's the vibration from that was knocking the camera. So that's how I'm cleaning. I also come back and I touch up with my Dremel, and I have a small polishing wheel on this little guy for spots that my big polishing doesn't hit, and I also have wire brushes for my Dremel, so all kinds of things just to get these as clean and shiny as I can. Okay, so I am holding off putting these little parts back on my needle bar until the very end to make sure that I have everything else figured out correctly. It's been a while since I've done a 15. So I'm just going to start my little bar here. The spring is on the bar, and if I remember right, this did slide through the top. I'm thinking it did. A little washer goes on top of the spring. Finial goes on top of that. Okay, below the spring we're going to have like this, okay, this bracket here, a little set screw that goes in there, and then just the feet and everything below. So that's the orientation I'm going for, but I'm gonna do it my old way, where I start my little bar in there, put my spring, my washer on, spring on. Now see this groove down there on this piece, this little rectangular part here, make sure it's really clean because that needs to slide up and down in that groove. Okay, so I'm going to throw some oil in that groove right now so it can be groovy. Alright, that was bad. Alright, so it's in there and it can move. Alright, then I'm just going to pop this finial up on top here and get it started threading just so nothing falls out that way if I tip it up right. Okay. Looking good, looking good. I was going to see if there was a mark on here of where it was before, and I think I actually covered it up. You see right here where there's like a little bit of discoloration up above and down below, and if I turn it like this, there's a tiny little dent right there. That's where that bracket was before. So I'm going to raise it up until I see that same little dent in there. Don't know if you can see it, but I can see it there, making sure this foot has the little flat part out. And I'm going to get this little screw started in here. Okay. And then cinch it in with a bit that is way too small. Okay, so if I lift this up, it's going to lift it. That's good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and twist this finial down a little bit more because it looks like it needs that pressure. Remember when I found this was screwed all the way down? That's a little extreme for me. I think that that's plenty of pressure right there where it is. Okay, and just like these pieces, I'm going to put these pieces, which is the thread cutter and the little screw that holds the presser foot on, last, because I still need to hunt up a different presser foot to put on here. All right. The last thing that needs to go on here is the faceplate, because the faceplate has the tension built into it. So let me go ahead, make a little space here. There is a little screw I need to keep with this. There it is. This is the little screw that holds the plate on, so that's going to get washed too. Let me move this out of the way so we can take this apart. from what I can tell, most of the 15s that I've done at least have very similar workings over here. So first I'm going to unscrew this screw here, and also this one down here. Ooh, and not poke myself. It's actually full of gunk. Okay, so there's this screw out now, and so then I can pull the whole little mechanism out. Down below is the canister. I have a spring, okay. On the 15s, the spring gets locked below here, kind of trapped in like that. This is all needs to be cleaned. This is built in to the casting. That doesn't come out. This is not coming out. This is not coming out. So this I'm going to put into my ultrasonic cleaner as is. Now over here, take off the little knurled nut, a beehive spring, a washer, and it's curved towards my discs, okay? So it's pooching out, I would say, if that's my technical term. It is pooching out, and it has a divider in there. And then you have your two tension discs, and of course they are curved towards each other. Okay, so I'm going to actually put some fresh cleaner in my ultrasonic, pop this in so you can see what it will do to a nasty faceplate. Okay, so this is clean. I'm going to put in my plate, and all of these little parts, not that wick, I'm not sure why that's there. Okay, I'm going to set it for 600 seconds, which is pretty long. Oops, forgot a screw. Put that in. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, I got impatient. Didn't wait the full 10 minutes. We've got closer to 5 minutes here, but I'm just going to start pulling things out. We'll see what they look like. You saw how dirty this plate was going in. Well, look at her now. Isn't that great? Okay, let's grab some parts. And I did find a foot, so I threw a foot in there too. Come on, come apart for me. But I hope you can see why the water gets really nasty, just because it pulls a lot of stuff off. So when I started all of this, I wasn't using my hardcore detergents in the water, and I am now. And I just think it does a much better job. I think that as long as you dry it off, pretty soon after you pull it off and do the final polish, that there shouldn't be any problem with it. But yeah, I think that that's a huge improvement. So I'm going to dry these, give them a quick polish, and then we'll be ready to put the machine back together. However, I need to run into town, so I will do this next time I'm back at my table. Hello everybody, welcome to the next day. So here is my clean plate, and I'm going to get started putting her back together. And I think I'm going to put the cylinder in first and then just build on it from there. I wanted to point out this is fully adjustable. If you see, this slot is nice and wide for that little set point, and this has a smaller set point, but it has a nice wide slot. So really there's quite a range of adjusting going on there. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and put the screws in that belong in those places, but just, oops, I think this one goes down here, but just put them in rather loosely. So after this, I have my little spring, and the spring itself, it's going to be set so that it's sitting right alongside this bottom, but I want it to have a little bit of oomph to want to stay in that position. So I think when I get it started, I'm actually going to try to set it a little bit lower, which is going to make it a bit awkward here. Like All right, see this slot here in this post? And there is a end of the wire right there. I need to line up the end of that wire into the slot of this post like that, okay? So that's going to hold it. But I want this to be slightly down as I set it in and then pull it up. All right, so that's going to make it want to stay down, okay? And I'm going to lock this post in and locking the canister in so it's in that position. Okay, so at this point the canister's in, the spring is in a good spot, it's got a lot of springiness to it. This is a thread guide there, so that's pretty good. All right, so next comes a disc, curved side out, another disc, curved side down, the little dividing washer, the beehive spring, and the little nut. Okay, so when the thread comes through, it's going to go through here, back around this, and then back down through here. So it's going to, well, I'll show you once it's all together, but that's pretty much how I'm going to hold it together right now. Since these screws are on the outside, I can always adjust those later. Honestly, you can adjust everything later, but that's how that looks. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the front plate back on, and just to show you, this is the back plate and how it cleaned up. I think they're both lovely. Okay, so next up, I've got to deal with this little screw over here. Don't want to lose that spring, so I'm going to try to be careful and just clean it in place. First thing I'm going to do is remove the bobbin winder from the belt guard. And let's see here how easy this is. Oh, that's pretty darn easy. Okay, way to go you. So there's that one. Let's try this one here. Not as easy. Let me get the ratchet for this one. And you know what, before I even get that started, I'm going to coat this whole thing. It's a daily dose of penetrating oil. Try to work it in there. This is the back side of that screw. Just put a little bit there. Try to work it in a bit. Let's give it another shot here. That was a close one. This is starting to make me wonder if this is reverse threaded, but it looks like it is slowly backing out, so I'm on the right course. I just need to keep going. I think I'm wearing out my bit here. Clean out that little slot. Goodness. She's coming out, if you can see, she is coming out. Just very, very tough. I have to make sure I press down very hard as I do this, so I don't strip anything. right, there we go. So here's the belt guard. I got to get that cleaned up on its own. Now, everything is very stuck on this bobbin winder. All right, just try to wiggle this apart. There's a massive spring in here. It's giving me so much trouble. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take this arm off here. I thought I could just pop it off, but maybe not. Right. Oops, this screw is coming off easier. Oops. Okay, so here's the little spring, just flew off. That's the spring that goes under this part, and that is the screw that goes with that part. So I'm just going to keep all those on that side of the dish over there. This stays over here with those two screws, and this is the massive spring that was underneath there, and this should pop out. Does not want to. That's what was giving me so much trouble. I really need to get it loose so that I can screw everything back together later, so we'll deal with that in a bit. I need to get a wrench to help me. Get this little nut off the back here. Okay. All right, so I got that nut open. Okay, so there's that. And with that nut off, I need to take this off. And again, it is underneath. So, loosening up this screw here. There's going to be another spring underneath it. This bobbin winder is just loaded with springs. Okay, you see how it jumped? So, this screw, this follower, and that little shouldered screw, that spring, those are all one part. So I'm just going to keep those over there. And now this should tap out. Should. And if you can see, it does have another spring in there. It's a little washer spring. Now, let's see if I can just pop this off this way. There it goes. All right, so here's this eccentric bolt. I'm going to put that over here. This, again, it has a welded little heart-shaped cog to it. And here's the little spring, and it is curving towards the cast. So, it's not wanting to come out, so I'm going to grab a pick. All right. So if you can see, it's curved a little bit, and it's curving towards the casting on here. All right. It needs a new tire, so that one's pretty cracked up. So we'll get in a new tire. And I am going to put this into the cleaner like this. And I'm hoping that in the ultrasonic cleaner, all the gunk inside of there might come a little bit loose, and I'll be able to loosen this up more afterwards. That's my thought. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the cleaner and let it be doing its thing while I get this polished up. And I got to show you, I screwed up something and I put the wrong screws in the wrong spot over here. I put a big screw here, which actually belongs in the front plate, and this screw, which belongs in this slot, and actually this screw belongs in this spot here. So, interestingly enough, the threads seem to match. And oops, I need to get the other thread starter. But if you're following along, that screw that I put here, it actually goes here. While I am cleaning my bobbin winder parts, I'm going to go ahead and cut this plate that I've cleaned back together. It's little screws, it's spring, and I need to give this plate a polish, and I'll be right back. So this is the bottom of my machine. Here's my plate. She is freshly polished. So I'm going to be putting this in here. I need to set this blade in place so that it's going to want to grab these little rails, and I'm doing it from underneath because it's just easier for me to do this here than to put this on ahead of time and try to get this manipulated and slid in place. Okay, and just tightening this up. There. Okay. So from the top, this is what it looks like, and those springs are going to keep it from sliding all the way off. Okay, so popping that back in there. Let me get back to cleaning my bobbin winder. I'll show you. I did get that screw out. It was a pain. I had to really, even after I pulled that part out, really hammer and hammer and hammer to get it somewhat out. And then, well, not with that, loosen it with a screwdriver, pull it with pliers. I got it out, polishing up the collar. I put that part back in the cleaner to help it try to get any of that gunk out of there. But yeah, that was quite a thing. I've got some parts out that I need to go ahead and polish, so let me get that done and we'll start putting her together. Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to get started putting this together again, but I wanted to show you that troublesome screw now spins easily, so that's great. I believe I'm going to get started by putting this back on first. So if you remember, I just kind of put that little nut on the back so I wouldn't lose the parts. What we have here is a whole lot of stuff going on. Okay, this little spring washer curves slightly, and it's curving towards the casting. Then this is set so that this little cog is down towards the casting also. And I put this shouldered eccentric bolt in there till it goes all the way through. And I know I will have to adjust this later, but I'm just putting it in. All right, see how when I'm turning this, this is not engaging at all? That's where the adjustment comes in. If I turn this screw until that cog gets close enough that it can turn, but not bind, that's what I'm going to be wanting. I think that's a little too tight, so I'm going to back it up just a hair. That looks good. Okay, so as I turn this, my little cog here, you know, you can't really see it, but trust me, it is turning. Okay, there, maybe now you can see it is turning as I turn this. Okay, so keeping this flat part of my screw where it is, I need to tighten up this washer back here. So let me kind of try to hold things in place. See that space? That space should not be there. So I need to actually push this in a little bit more. Hang on a sec. Okay, I tapped it in, so now there's no space there. I want to make sure that this is still in its right spot, and it is. Now, just by hand tightening up this little screw in the back, and then with my wrench, I don't want to cinch it without holding this in place, 'cause that could be bad. Again, I do need to get a different adjustable wrench. On my shopping list, trust me it is, because this is a piece of garbage. Okay, so with that tightened up, can I still spin this? No, it got adjusted wrong. When I was tightening it up, this must have turned. So let me see. If I can still tighten it, if not, I have to back that nut out a hair. Okay, with that backed out, turning this screw until it's tight enough to turn, but not enough to bind. Hold it in place, tighten that. Okay, now we don't have any gaps, so that is good. When I turn this, it turns. Everything looks good there. So I'm just going to give it one last little cinch. All good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put the little follower on now. Okay, so first I have this little spring. There's a hole in there, right there. Maybe a set one. The little bottoms of the spring in that hole. This one sticking out like this. Okay. Why isn't it going in? All right, I'm just going to get this started because that wire is sticking out. All right, so my threads of my screw are started. Now I'm going to try to push this wire over so it goes into that hole. Can I do it? There, I did it. Look at that, it's in that hole. Okay, now before I let anything loose, tighten this screw up. Can you imagine working in the factory and doing this all day long, every day? I mean, I guess you get the hang of it. All right. Now the spring is in place. The follower is nice and snappy. It's running up against that little cog down there. And if I turn this, I want to see this go back and forth. And it is going back and forth very slowly, but it is going back and forth. So that's what I want. Yes, it is. Okay, for a second there I thought that this had come loose, but no, we're good, it's moving. And it's just going to go a little bit. It's not like for the big long bobbins where it goes way far. It's just literally back and forth inside that little 15 bobbin. I think this is over-engineered. Honestly, you don't really need this, but you know, is what it is. I'm going to get started just lightly getting this screw in place to hold that. Okay, like that. Okay, now just to let you know, I am doing this a Bob Fowler method just because these things can drive you nuts getting all the springs attached, you know. So I got this from one of his videos. There's a lot of different kinds of bobbin winders. They all have some similarities, but you know, you do what you can do to figure them out. So I'm putting this big screw, the one that gave me all the trouble, in here, okay, to hold its place, and see how this has all that travel. I'm going to go ahead, center it midway in its path, and cinch it in really good. Okay, so now it's not going to move anywhere. And now I can take this out, knowing that that is lined up really well. Okay, then I'm going to get my cleaned part. This spring here, it's got one side that sticks out, one that sticks down. There's a little hole in the casting that I put this little part that sticks down into it. Bring this part of the spring over and latch it underneath that notch there, kind of like I did on the bottom part. And it needs to stay there while I get this in place down here. So holding it this way now, okay, I'm going to get my big screw again, put it through, keep that where it needs to be in that notch. Hang on a second. Okay, so I'm holding the wire with my thumb, holding this here, putting that into that hole. Come on, go in there for me. And I'm going to try to thread this in. Please, oh please, oh please. Get back in there. This is such a pain. Not going to lie, this bobbin winder has been a pain. Okay, getting that in here. This under. This is a very tight spring. I need one more hand is what I need. You know what? Maybe if I put this up on a board, it'll be high enough that I don't have to set anything down. I don't even know what I'm doing now. I need this spring to stay up in this notch. That's what I need. And it doesn't want to at all. It wants to pop out. And it's starting to bother my thumb here. I'm wondering if I can get it started, get that screw just started it threading into this hole. Because that's my problem, is trying to get it started in there. Okay, so it's just barely started in that hole. Now, bringing it over and latching it in to that slot. Or you know what? I'm just going to hold it. I'm just going to hold it over here and screw it at the same time and try not to get anything pinched. That was not correct, Marie. Not correct. I need to get that spring over on the other side. Okay, backing it out again. Okay, I got it barely started there. I got the spring over on this side. I want to make sure that it stays down where it's supposed to be and it's over inside of that notch. Let me tighten it up just a bit more. Make sure that spring is down where it needs to be. I almost need to have one screwdriver holding it down and another one tightening at the same time. Yay! Okay. All right, it's not tight all the way, but it's in place. Okay. So now that spring, you see how the spring is above this, and there's the little notch opening. It's inside of that notch opening. Okay. Okay, so now I've got this little spring here. On my bobbin winder, there's 2 holes. I'm going to use this hole on the right. Put one of the bottom, my spring, it's basically has 2 little prongs that stick out 180 degrees apart, so I'm not worrying too much about that. There's a hole here on this that I need to line up with that part of the spring that is sticking up. I'm having trouble seeing it. You know what? Let me turn my light on. That might help. Oh, my light was on. Well, that's scary. Just a bunch of silver things at once. Oh my goodness. Okay, spring in the hole. All right, I've got that wire in this little hole. And where did I drop my screw? This one that has the little bitty shoulder, it's going to go through here. I'm going to get it started. Okay. I'm bringing, I have this on backwards. Oh my gosh. Marie, no wonder you were having trouble. Okay. Taking it off, flipping it this way, for crying out loud. What in the world, huh? Okay, I've got it on this way. Putting my screw back in, getting it started. Okay, so that little wire is in that hole. I'm pushing it down, lots of play. I haven't tightened this up. I'm bringing it all the way around and pushing this down so that this little pointy part here is lined up with where that little slot is in this. Okay, and while I'm still holding it down, I'm going to tighten this up. And this is a shouldered screw, so even when it's tightened in all the way, this should move. Okay. I think we're in business. So as the bobbin winder, this is when you first are putting your bobbin on, you're going to start, it's going to go back and forth. As soon as your bobbin gets full enough that this moves back enough, and it's going to go boop, and then you're going to stop winding. So I'm just going to double check that my screws are all good. I may have to adjust this one once I have it on the machine. But I think we're good. I have a new tire here. I'm going to go ahead and stretch over it. Okay. Looky there, how pretty that is. All right, let me go ahead. Make sure I didn't screw up my spring while I was manhandling this. And screw the whole thing back onto my machine. Like this, and you can't see that, trust me. And let me get this screw started up here on the top. All right, that looks good. I need to put the machine aside because I need to work on that light and motor. I wanted to show you, these wicks were actually really soft and in pretty good shape. So I am just putting them back in, loading them up with oil. Before I put everything away, I'm putting my wheel back on. So I have cleaned it. I just used a rubbing compound. Because basically, I mean, you saw on the chrome parts all the gunk that was on the machine. Everything you saw on the chrome part is also on the black. You just don't see it as much. So the rubbing compound works great. Be very careful if you're using it over the decaled areas, but on the black and on the chrome on the wheel, it works really, really well. Okay, so let me put this little screw in and see if I have that washer in the correct way. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Ooh, that's not turning at all, so I don't think I do. Let me back it out. I probably have one of those little tabs right underneath where I was screwing. Yes, I do, so I'm going to flip it this way and try it again. Okay. Feels a lot better. Yeah, it's in the right place. So let me go ahead and see. And yes, I can turn it. Everything is going really, really well. Love that. I'm going to set it aside in its little temporary box here. And get that So bobbin, the motor, and the light over here. So I just grabbed the new foot pedal I had, and I thought it was the kind that has the plug that goes in here. It is not. It is the kind that has the light and motor plug on it. So I'm going to wire this machine to work with this brand new foot pedal. I can unscrew this and take this part off. Okay, so I'm going to use this just because I don't want to order a new one. These are, you know, about $28 to $30, so it's a good foot pedal. So I'll have one wire for the light, one for the motor, and then they'll both plug in there. And that way, if this goes back into a cabinet, which it should, this would be a good one to put into a cabinet. Usually they have a light motor plug in there that you can just pop into. If not, well, this will be with it. Okay, anyway, let me take this bracket off first. A smaller bit. What are we? We are a BR7 Singer motor. So that's a decent motor. Okay. At this point, this is all just a disaster in here. Just to make my life easier, I'm going to cut it. It's just crumbling away. It's so bad. So bad. All right. I'm just going to try to pull this pulley off. So here is one screw. It's a long one, okay, goes all the way through it, pop that in there. There's the pulley. Now I took this screw off, so this should pop off. I'm going to give it a tap. There it goes. Okay. So now that this bracket is off, I'm going to unscrew this up here. This piece comes off. I'll save this for maybe a future project or something, but I'm not going to be using it on this one. That needs to be cleaned up. Okay. This is just so nasty. Well, we'll just get started. Let me try to open up the brushes and see what they look like first. These are just little Bakelite caps, so being careful. That looks nice and shiny in there. I see the end of a brush. It didn't come out. It's not coming out. But it is nice and shiny in there, so that gives me hope. Let me see what this side is looking like. And again, the brush did not come off with the spring. It's stuck in there. That's probably what is seizing up the spinning of that shaft, is those brushes being stuck in there. I don't even know. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up these two screws here. I'm going to move all this crap out of the way so I can pay attention in case a little washer or something wants to fall out while I'm working, that I can see it. So I'm going to put a clean paper towel down so that I can keep track of everything that might appear. Okay, just unscrewing these guys. Here they are. Oh, how easy will you be to pull apart? I'm not really seeing any other screws holding it, so... Alright, so it's got this band on it with no screws, and I can't figure out how to pull it off, so instead I'm just going to try to tap the end off, because I'm assuming that it just slides together. And look, it is starting to come off, so I'm guessing that's it. I'm just going to keep lightly tapping without damaging my Bakelite. Yeah, it is coming open, so there you go. All right, I got it that far out. Let me see if I can just wiggle it. There's still all kinds of things coming apart, crusty things, and that shaft is still completely immobile, so all of that stuff. Okay, so see, this is not even wanting to turn. I can't even turn it, well, barely with my fingers. So there's a major issue going on in there. There are no washers. Nope, I take it back. There is one fiber washer here on this side of the shaft, and then another one. So I'm going to keep these two together. Is there any in here? No. All right, I'm going to keep these two right here with that side so I know where they belong. And I need to get this side off here too. So as I was tapping, this popped open, so I think that there's that at least. So I'm going to try to slide that collar off. All right, set that aside over there. This looks like tape around it. I just don't know. I just don't know. Okay. I tapped it some more. If you can see, I don't want to go too much farther because I don't want these wires to break. But where those brushes are, it is totally corroded, and they are like welded on in there. I'm going to see if I can get my pick in here and try to push them up from the bottom, but I'm not feeling really hopeful. I do have, oh, that pushed it out. I do have another motor that I've rebuilt, you know, off camera earlier that I could use for this, but I'd like to keep it original if I can. Okay, so let's see if I can get this little brush out now. Come on, I know you're moving now. I saw you moving. Okay, it's starting to come out. All right, so there it is. It's still long, it's just, it was like welded to it. So let me see if I can get this side off. Come on. There you go. All right. Yeah, same condition. It was welded at the bottom. I don't know why. Don't know why. All right, can I get this out now, though, is the question. And it still won't turn. That shaft still won't turn. I think this is beyond the scope of anything I can deal with right now. I cannot separate the shaft from up here. These are my heavy-duty pliers. I can barely turn it. It's not going to come loose. I've tapped from this side. That just requires a whole lot of stuff. Now, I do have in my stash of stuff, this is a BT7 motor, so it's the same motor, slightly different vintage, but same motor that I actually rebuilt a few months ago. And so my thought is I'm just going to use this. I don't need this piece. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to make this prettier so it can work, but this is just, it's just too far gone for me for right now. Okay, with her plug on, I'm just going to pull this out and give it a go just to make sure that everything sounds right. I don't have a belt on her. I actually have a belt on order, which Amazon promises will be delivered tomorrow. We will see. I'm in the middle of nowhere, but we will see. But at least I can see if the motor itself sounds good. So I'm going to plug this in. Over here, there's a light outlet and a motor outlet. The motor outlet operates goes this way. Oh, come on. Why are you not going in? I'm putting the wider side on the wider side over here. It is polarized. There it goes. So the light just operates all the time. The motor operates off the pedal. Let's see. Well, you can't see. But she is running. She sounds really good. Like I said, I rebuilt that motor several months ago, but it's good to have a backup. So I'm just going to unplug this for right now so I can get it out of the way while I work on the light. I'm going to see if there is, get this stuff out of here, if there's any way that I can get to what I need to from this side. Because I don't want to crack that. So let me change out this bit and see if I can take this part here. Lots of tiny screws. So I have this itty bitty screw there, one here and one here and one here. They want it to be very secure that this is not going to fall apart. Okay. Let's see if I can get this out. Okay. I'm going to replace that. Yeah. Well, this spins now, but I don't know. Okay, there it goes. All right. So that is going to stay all together. I'm going to clean and polish it up. This is my disaster. As you can see, this is bare wire all the way here. The insulation is just completely gone. But I think the switch is good. It looks like the switch is good. So I'm thinking if I can just put new wire from this point here down, that will be good. So I'm going to take this off here. Just lay that aside for a minute. And I'm just going to use lamp wire to redo this. I have such a mess going on down here. I wanted to show you I've polished up this inner shield and, oops, rubbing compound on there. And it has a little place where it just pops in like that. I've got the new wire on here, and this should pop up. Why aren't you just popping up? Hang on, let me see what is blocking my way. Okay, I don't want to take it out again, but there's like this little cardboard circle with a couple notches out of each side. And you feed the wires through 2 of those notches. Inside of this housing, there's a couple little slots, and those slots need to feed through the other 2 notches. So all of that has to be just right. But I think that looks pretty good. That cleaned up really nice. I need to go ahead and get all of my little micro mini screws put back in here one at a time. So there's 3 up here and there's 1 right here. Okay, I'm just going to plug my light in and it works. I'm happy. Feels secure. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this attached to the machine. Okay, so this light is going to go on back here. I'm going to put this wire underneath the motor. Let's see if I can feed it up. There you go. Yeah. Alright, so I need to get this screw put in, and it is that really awkward angle of a screw where this is in the way. So I'm going to try to get it started with a skinny little screwdriver from a bizarre angle, which looks like it's kind of working. Pull this up until it's almost tight, and then get it into place. There's a little notch in the casting there where this bracket should fit. And I need to go ahead and see if I can get that tightened in. So, looks like it's going pretty good. Once I have this back on, then I'll put the pretty little silver plate back on. Okay. So there it is. That looks really nice. I'm kind of bummed about the motor. Like I said, this is the same motor. It's the BT, well, this is a BT7. The other one was a BR7. Similar. It will work. This is, I think, a slightly older motor. It's not as beautiful. And this little brass plate wants to peek up a little bit. But like I said, I did completely open her up, clean her up, you know, do everything and put her back together previously. Hello and welcome to several days later. I've been really busy in my house doing other things, so I just came out to try to finish this up, and I had to do some adjustments. I had to adjust my needle bar height, and on the needle bar there's a couple little lines, and where the bottom of this bushing is, you line up those lines according to that bushing. And let me tell you, Bob Fowler has an excellent video explaining in great detail all of that process. So if you have questions, I direct you to him. Okay, I had to run and grab a FedEx package. So as I was saying, I had to adjust the needle bar height, and just now I ran a little test, and my bobbin tension was extremely loose. So I just made a little adjustment to the tension of that bobbin case because I had taken it completely apart. So hopefully it'll be much better now. Oops, that did not sound good, did it? All right, let me figure out what's going on here. Got thread all over, which is never good. I'm out of breath because my shop is up on a hill. Oh, I'm using a funky old spool of thread, and it's got that little sharp edge there. I think it's snagged. Anyhow, I'm out of breath because my shop is up on the top of a hill. I just ran up the hill, so you know. Well, let me keep playing with it. The only other thing is my feed dog height. Well, while I have this off, I'll show you. My feed dog height was really weird on this. And I'll show you the screws that I used to make that adjustment, because I feel like based on the sound, I may have to make another slight adjustment. So this little screw right here, this is an older model that just has this screw. If you have one where the feed dogs will drop, there'll be another little knurled nut here that you can unscrew and it'll pop down. But loosening that up and turning it slightly will adjust your feed dogs on here. So let me play with that again, and I will be back shortly. I just thought I'd point out, because I had to adjust it again. This is the bobbin case here. This little screw with the little, come on, focus on me. This little screw right here, it's got a little ledge around it, a little divot kind of area. That's what I'm turning. I need to increase the tension a little bit, so I'm just turning it like 180 degrees at a time. So I just went kink, and I'm going to put it back in and test it. I know that there are scales that you can use to get the proper tension, and one of these days I'll invest. I don't have one right now. I kind of go by trial and error, as is my way, but I'm going to put it back in and give it another shot. Alrighty, so let's try it one more time. Oh, that's looking much better. Alright, let me pull that stitch length out wider here. Just loosening it up. Okay. Alright, let's see what this one looks like. Okay, so I have purple on the top. I like to use 2 different color threads because it's easier to see if something's peeking through. White on the bottom. Looks really balanced, really good. It feels really strong, so that is great. Feeling good about this little machine. She's got a different motor, all new lighting, cleaned up, working well. I'm going to give her a good final wax and polish before I call her good. And she is going to be going up for sale in my store for all of you traditionalists who love the original. And she does have a really cool RAF emblem decal set, and they are still sparkly. I don't know if you can see, they are still sparkly. So let me get her waxed up and shiny and pop her in for her glamour shot, and we're going to call her good. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it.